What's up, guys? Thanks for tuning in on today's Custom Car Reviews. I'm your host, Gabe, and today I'm behind the wheel of a 2021 Mustang GT base. But before I say anything else, let me bless your ears. Oh, geez. Okay, wait. We're not done yet. We got a little tunnel run here. Wonderful. Get a little downshift. Oh man, that is just incredible. That beautiful exhaust note is coming from a naturally aspirated 5-liter V8 engine, putting out 464 crank horsepower. Now that engine in itself is actually the 3rd generation of the Coyote engine, and it is about 30 more horsepower faster than the previous Gen 2. The real reason why is because there are some tweaks to the Gen 3 Coyote engine, which is high pressure direct fuel injection systems, and also a low pressure port injection system that is already known to the Coyote engine. So adding those two components just has a higher compression in the formula and also produces a far more efficient and far more powerful engine. So this is truly the biggest and baddest Coyote engine you can get in today's Mustangs. Now that engine was introduced back in 2018, and it kind of makes me think of the time back in 2010 when the Coyote was introduced in 2011, and it really upsetted a lot of 2010 Mustang owners because of that huge jump in performance. And well, I feel like it's somewhat the same situation with the pre-refreshed S550 owners, because I mean 30 horsepower makes quite a difference. And I've driven the pre-refreshed S550. In fact, that was the first review I've ever done, and let me tell you, that car kind of felt like you were going fast but not really. And in this case, the car feels like you're not going fast but you really are. Now that beautiful 5-liter V8 is hyperbolized by the owners custom exhaust system that is comprised of stock headers, an H-pipe, and MagnaFlow mufflers. And honestly, that's about it. You don't need to really have that much more exhaust modifications on these Mustangs, because look, the moment you slap headers on them and you make them fully straight pipe, they become ridiculously loud. Like it's not even like my Camaro SS loud. It's like, I think, twice as loud as that. So this is a perfect exhaust setup. In fact, the owner actually was straight piped at one point and then told himself that it was just way too much, and completely understand that. Right now on the highway, when you have that H-pipe and that MagnaFlow muffler setup, it's really not that bad. I'm right now in the 6th gear, and honestly, it sounds perfect. I mean, there's no drone whatsoever. Even if you want to go into 4th gear, it's still a very crisp and a very melodic type of sound rather than a obnoxious drone. All right, we got a little straightaway. Let's have some fun. Man, that is quick. Oh my. You know, at the lower end, not that crazy, but oh man, they really love to be revved up high. Oh my god. Yeah, this thing moves. get two different transmission options. This one, of course, is the one with the 6-speed MT82 transmission, the infamous MT82 transmission, and of course the other option being the lightning fast 10-speed automatic. I mean, the 10-speed automatic transmission with the Mustang GTs was revolutionary, but nonetheless not as soulful as the Mustang GT with the 6-speed. And of course, with the 6-speed, you do have auto rev matching, which does help a lot. Oh, this is just something so poetic about you directly changing the gears in a V8, an American V8, well, any V8 at matter of that. But look, the point is that whether you get a 10-speed or a 6-speed, you're gonna be very content with the Mustang GT as a whole. Now let's talk a little bit about suspension and driving. This right now is straight highway driving, which is a good time to mention that this car is actually equipped with some EBOC lowering springs, and that's pretty much it. That's the only modifications that have been done to the suspension. The owner actually is going to replace the stock suspension with the GT Performance Pack, which is not available to do from the factory. You either get the Performance Pack, which comes with a bunch of other great goodies, but you know, at a very high cost. So these base Mustang GTs come equipped with like the standard suspension that right now on the highway with those lowering springs feels incredible. Now we are of course on the highway where there's not many potholes, especially in the metropolitan area that I live in, but it is still a very, very, very comfortable ride. I mean, you can go really, really fast in this car and not realize it. I think that's kind of like the curse or the double-edged sword of these American V8s. You know, that Coyote V8, it's just so it's so unique, and the fact that you can rev it up to 7,500 just really makes you appreciate that exhaust note so much more. This car already comes with some pretty contemporary and I would say very modern form of suspension equipment, such as an independent rear suspension that used to be kind of like the Achilles heel of the Mustang GT, where it would always kind of like slide off the moment that uneven roads would come about. And that's really just because that was a solid axle suspension setup. So with the independent rear, this just it's just so intoxicating to do that. It really is. But with the independent rear suspension, you just have so much more confidence on the straight lines, and of course when you are doing some cornering with this car. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about, well, how is it like driving it in traffic? And quite frankly, I think it's going to be like any other performance American muscle car. It's just obviously really annoying to drive in traffic. I'm not sure if it's because it's this particular car, but the clutch is extremely light and the travel distance is not nearly as much as my Camaro, at least for the 5th generation. I always remember the 6th gen pre-refresh S550s having such a very difficult clutch to engage, and the travel speed wasn't nearly as long. This one is incredibly spongy and super manageable. 0 to 60 time for the 6-speed manual transmission in like optimal conditions should be about 4.3 seconds. We're not gonna definitely hit that today, nor are we gonna hit the 155 mile per hour top speed that this car is allowed to do from the factory. Fuel economy on the highway should be about 20 to 21. City should be about 15. The owner of this car has it at 19.3, so we can see that he does a lot of highway driving and, you know, not too much stop and go traffic. There is something that I've noticed with this car and the other Mustangs that I've driven in the past, and it's that the hood seems to like bounce, bob and weave, and it's really like concerning. I know that is completely normal, and that's, I guess, how it came from Ford, but it's something that is kind of like an eyesore and relatively cheap. Yes, the installation is obviously not that great. This is in fact an American muscle car, and this is definitely on the lesser expensive trim. This is the base. Remember, there are a couple things of which we will cover in just a moment here, but sound insulation is definitely not its priorities. Obviously, you can switch out the tires, experiment with that. What can I say, guys? The driving experience overall it's phenomenal. There's a really notable difference between the pre-refresh and, of course, this generation refresh. Now that we're talking about the differences between the pre-refresh and the refreshed Mustang GT, we're gonna notice that the major differences between the two of them happens up front and in the rear. The front actually got these more angular and more aggressive headlights, but have these two fins on the side that kind of makes it look like a fish. I think that was where a lot of people lost a lot of interest in this refresh generation look. Now over here in the rear section, we're gonna notice that they do have a little bit more angular tail lights. This is actually my favorite part of this refreshed update. All of the Mustang GT, whether you get the base or premium, come with really nice exhaust quad tip setups. Now this car in particular has carbon fiber tips that are obviously not optional for the Mustang GTs from factory. I actually want to show you guys into the direct sunlight just how beautiful this Velocity blue metallic color is. Look at that. The flakes are just popping, and with direct sunlight it looks absolutely incredible. And you also have to appreciate how well of a contrast these silver alloy ESR wheels go with this blue. I love how these ESR wheels also hide these massive 4-piston brakes that are up front, which adding a little bit of yellow would just seal the deal with this color combo. And of course, when you have like this beautiful background, you just tend to appreciate it more. Clearly there wasn't that much of a difference from the pre-refresh, with the exception of the front and the rear lift. Now let's take a look at the interior, which is where we're gonna really tell the difference between the Mustang GT Premium and of course the Mustang GT Base. Right off the bat, the biggest difference between the two of them is going to be the cloth seats. Now these cloth seats are stylish, and please ignore this baby seat back here. It just goes to show that this car can be daily drivable and daily use. Now, whether or not a baby should be behind a sports car, that's not really up to me, nor should it be up to you. But the point is that you really can make it work. The cloth seats are, again, they're stylish. They're not really that ugly in terms of the shape and the design. The holsters, in fact, are very comfortable, and there's plenty of grip here, especially when you're turning. However, with upkeep and overall presentation, leather is definitely the more superior option, which of course comes standard with the premium. You can tell that the build quality is clearly not the best, but you know what? It's okay, because you buy this car not for, you know, having extravagant interior, right? You buy it because of this really nice and big and fast Coyote V8 engine with that amazing sound. Now, I do want to point out that there are some really favorable characteristics about the interior, such as these silver finished pieces right here, this trim. I think it looks awesome, and I love how it continues down to where the boot is, of course where the shift knob is, some of the dials here, and of course the cupboard, and it even extends to the door panels as well. I do like that contrast from like the boring plastic black color. I think now would be a good time to address the elephant in the room, which a lot of people can relate to that and at least agree with me. This has an absurd amount of buttons. I mean, it is just everywhere. I mean, you have so many here in the steering wheel, which is already a little bit overwhelming in itself. I mean, what is this? Like, this is a 2021 car and you still have the numbers here. I mean, this literally looks like a calculator. And when you have like this really small, I would say 4-inch screen almost, this design, this look is very antiquated. When you compare this with the Camaro LT1 or the Camaro SS base, you'll find out that the Camaro's interior is far more superior in modern looks and I think in overall functionality. I mean, this doesn't have Apple CarPlay. Let me go ahead and show you guys how the screen looks. I mean, it's so small. You actually have to like lean in to see what you're seeing on the screen. Even using the rear view camera is so awkward with this car considering how small the screen is. If you really want to have this car for like a sports car only and you really want to leave it for just that, I guess that's something that you can let slide. But if you're going to daily drive this car, there's a couple of things that you might want to consider, and the Camaros and even the Challengers and the Chargers interiors are just so much more up to date and just provide so much more of a seamless infotainment and engaging experience. Obviously, with these newer models, and I think a lot of new performance cars, you have a bunch of options to like view specific meters. For example, air fuel ratio, cylinder head temp, I mean engine oil, temperature, pressure, I mean all of this stuff very standard, I think, with the Camaros and the Challengers, and of course Chargers as well. Another great setup here is the fact that you have this thing called Trax app, which again is not really like industry leading. I think Camaros and of course any GM performance vehicles also has like a this similar type of thing where you can see your performance on your phones, but of course you have like the accelerometer, which shows you the G's that you're pulling. Of course you have different things like brake performance and how that works, so you can actually time how fast from 60 to 0 as opposed to 0 to 60, which of course you also have that timer as well. So the speedometer and the tachometer, the way that it is, I think it just looks great. I think it's something that is still a little bit retro. You know, I'm not really big on digital clusters anyways. Look, clearly the selling point of the Mustang GT is not going to be the interior, because the interior is mid. The seats itself, that's a different conversation. Yes, you're not gonna get the heated ventilated seats, leather seats as well. That's fine, you can always spec that out, but when you come to like this section here, it's not doing it for me. Frankly, you know, you don't buy this car for the interior, because if you did, you have some questionable spending habits. Well guys, there you have it. That is the full in-depth review of the 2021 post-refresh Mustang GT. Of course, this car, like every other car out there, does have some imperfections, starting with, of course, the interior. Very mid, very basic compared to the competitors, but nonetheless, it is still not that big of a deal, especially if you buy the premium. That makes it somewhat more desirable. Of course, the post-refresh front doesn't necessarily appeal to me as much, but nonetheless, it does have a very sporty and aggressive look overall. The most important part of this was definitely the driving experience. I cannot emphasize just how awesome and exciting and thrilling this car was to drive. Even as a Camaro owner and lover, this was truly an eye-opening experience, and this will definitely triumph all the other things that I mentioned previously. Guys, stay tuned for the next video where I drive first-person POV of this Mustang GT. If you found this video informative and entertaining, go ahead and give this video a like. Helps out tremendously with the algorithm. If you guys enjoy my content as a whole, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. And last, do not forget to hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of my reviews, my POV drives. Guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you next time.